Crimson Duels here. I wanted to record a beginner video. A couple times a year, we're going to get what we call dream tickets, UR dream tickets specifically, and just like other tickets, they're redeemable to get you a card. Now, the difference is with a normal UR ticket, the different cards that you can pick from to acquire are very, very limited. With the dream ticket, it's any card available in the game, at the time of the ticket's release. So it's very, very, very powerful, and you need to choose what card you select wisely. So what I wanted to do here is help guide you through that process, help you pick what you should go for, and definitely what you shouldn't go for, and in the big picture, how to get the most value out of your dream tickets. Um, so the first rule of thumb here is absolutely do not pick with your dream ticket a card that you can get from a regular ticket, not a dream ticket. This sounds simple, but it is very easy to forget to check, is this a card I can get with another ticket and not have to use the dream ticket, which gives me access to, as I mentioned, any card in the game, because that would make it a total waste. I mean, I have right now like 150 plus tickets that I haven't redeemed things with. I could use a ton of those to get UR cards. Obviously, the UR cards that are not gotten with the dream tickets are usually just not as competitively viable. But there are certain decks and that they fit into, so at times can be great. But do not waste your dream ticket on a card that you can acquire on a regular UR ticket. Now, this is probably the biggest tip here, is you want to try to pick cards that are going to be good the longest and you're going to get the most value out of. What that means is you generally do not want to pick a card that belongs to a certain archetype, because in the meta for this game, the decks that are at the top of the game change very, very frequently. So, if you pick something that is specific to elemental heroes or to mech knights or to orcist, you're going to get a month or two where it's great, but you're not going to get much more than that, and you've spent kind of a card, an opportunity to pick any card in the game, and its value is only lasting you a couple months there. Instead, I recommend typically picking a monster. I'm sorry, not picking a monster, picking a spell or a trap card for that reason. And I did a video already around kind of spells and trap cards to prioritize. I think almost anything on that list would be a good choice. I'll name a few more in a moment to be specific, but that is kind of where I tend to go with these. Couple other. This one is not as strict, but I think it is still a good one to follow. It is best to use it on a card that is obtained from a main box instead of a mini box. The main box being, typically having 180 packs in the box compared to a mini box of around 100. Just thinking probability-wise, if I were to go open 10 packs there, the probability of getting this card that I'm looking at is much lower, given it almost has twice as many packs. So we're thinking, like, how can I skip having to run through an entire main box? Whereas if I had to run through an entire mini box, it would be essentially half of the gems. Um, you know, quick formula on the value there. Pretty easy to see why I'm making that recommendation. And the other thing, this one might not be as obvious, but I typically don't recommend using it on a very old card, like something from, I don't know the exact cutoff, but I think like earlier in the game. And the reason for this one is when there are sales within the card store, what they'll often do is um, normally buying 10 packs of a certain box costs 500 gems, but the older boxes when they're on sale are going to be 250 gems for 10 packs. So you could use the dream ticket, if you use the dream ticket on one of those cards, you're kind of wasting gems where you could be ripping through packs at half price essentially, but not having to use kind of real money, use your gems for it there. So I tend to think you're getting less value out of doing it that way. Now, if there's a card from one of those older decks or older boxes that you absolutely need, not a terrible idea, but again, trying to maximize value here. So we do see at the top here, there's recommendations for beginners, and this is, I'm going to follow 2 out of the 3 of these. I think MST and I think Book of Moon are fantastic choices. I have 2 MSTs. I'm not dying for a third one, but if I did, that would be a good option here. I think with a lot of the key cards, 2 is good to have. Would it be ideal and just perfect to have 3 of every card? But unless you want to go swiping your credit card over and over, it's pretty hard to get there. I don't think Dark Rebellion Dragon is a terrible pick. It does belong to kind of the Phantom Knights archetype, but being a generic level 4 Xyz monster. It gets quite a bit of play in all different types of decks. So as much as it is a monster, you're seeing a ton of different archetypes, and should be worth considering here. But the choice is yours beyond that. I think something like Warning Point is a fantastic option too. It is very viable. You see it in many, many different decks. It is not on a limited list, so it's one of those traps there, and a really good option. I'm not going to list every single one here, but I'll scroll down a little bit further because I don't think I've passed Forbidden Lance yet, but that is another really, really good option. It's played through a ton of different decks right now, and definitely should be kind of within your consideration set. Yeah, right here, Forbidden Lands. Um, so you don't necessarily have to follow like the exact cards I mentioned here. And if you're a player who's been playing for a long time, you may already have like all of the specific cards that you really need to be competitively viable, and now you're focused more on like a deck specifically. So, at that point, your dream ticket can be used on whatever you want. But this is all coming from the standpoint of like, how can I get to competitive success as quickly as possible? These are the rules I would follow. I hope this has been helpful. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much.